So now we can see that we've masked out the hair sort of quite nicely. And if we just sort of go in, we can sort of change the colour and sort of see how it works. I mean, it's not perfect, but it'll do. You can work a bit more on this as much as you like on your one, but I'm kind of in a hurry so that the video size doesn't get too big. Right, so now the next thing that we need to do is we can disable and enable our layer mask. So what I'm doing is I'm right clicking on the actual black and white image. So this tiny little thing here, when I right click on it, I get this little menu, so I can disable this layer mask. So now what I can do is I can use the magnetic lasso and I can run around her arm. Like so. Right, because this entire inside part of the image we want to be able to see completely, I'm not really that bothered about the accuracy of it. I'm just trying to make it like a reasonably good mask. So now I can use the subtract. So on my options bar, I've got my four different tools that I can use. So if I use subtract, I can kind of cut out all these little holes. So anywhere where it's not quite following perfectly, I can put in little points. So you can see I've now cut out that hole. Do the same around here. Okay, so now I've got a pretty good selection. I can also come into my marquee tool. I'm just going to add to my selection. I'm just going to fix this a little bit here. Okay, so now I've got her fully selected. I can then enable this layer mask. And what I want to do is, with my selection, I can go edit, fill, and if I choose white, I can hit OK. You can see I've now brought her back entirely. So now what we need to do is just kind of have a little think about potential areas. Like she's wearing, if I disable my layer mask, you'll be able to see. Let's zoom in a bit. You can see we've got these earrings or hoops, whatever you want to call them. So these bits have been knocked out because they're quite light, but we actually want those to be completely opaque and not transparent. So making sure that I re-enable my layer mask, and I've got my layer mask selected. We can use our painting tools, much like with our quick mask tool, and I can paint in this. So this area here, I'm just going to paint with white. Don't forget, it's always useful to adjust your brush size. So just tiny little areas where we've not quite got our selection right, we can just kind of correct it. So you can see there's like little holes here and there. So this area here, if we switch to black, we can paint out this bit. So far so good. So let's switch back to white. So you can see I used the keyboard shortcut X, and that switches these colours. So I can then just paint in the areas which I've knocked out. Let's just see. That's such a small area, I'm not even going to worry about that. If you want to make this absolutely perfect, you can. But I'm just, in the interests of file size, I'm just going to go as quickly as I can. So I've actually made a slight mistake. I should have really saved my selection, which I made of her. So you can actually use your selection tools to select areas like this. So I've made a selection using the lasso tool, and I can now run image adjustments levels. And what I'm trying to do is there's a slight shadow around here. So if I pull this black slider in, you can see that the shadow just kind of disappears. I can kind of mess around with this a fair amount. And there you go, that's it. I'd say that's pretty much job done. I could even do the same thing again here. So I've got my lasso tool, I'm just going to loop around here quickly. Oh. So I'm just going to make sure that, yep, I've got this white border around my mask, so I'm definitely going to affect my mask. Image adjustments levels, again, pull in the black slider a bit. Mess around with those kind of sliders there until you've got something that looks about right. So now, the next thing to do is to delete the background image. Oh, whoops. Just drag that. And then save this as, and this is where it becomes quite important. Do not save it as a JPEG, because otherwise you'll end up with a solid white background again. So you have a choice between either a Photoshop document, you could use a PNG, but if you're going to be taking this into InDesign, I'd recommend avoiding it. Probably the best one to use is either a TIFF, possibly a Targa, but I mean, if you've got the file size space, or if you've got the storage space to accommodate it, stick with a normal Photoshop document. Make sure you give it a meaningful name, and then just hit save.